Okay, next item on the agenda is a presentation on the Traditional Neighborhood Development Ordinance.
Thank you. A traditional neighborhood development, or TND, is a form of land use permitted only as a conditional use, which requires specific approval from Borough Council. A TND typically contains mixed uses and evokes the feeling of a small neighborhood on the pedestrian scale. The borough's current TND ordinance was adopted in 2004 as part of an amendment to the zoning ordinance. It was written to accommodate the Newtown Station townhouse development on the former Frost Watson lumberyard site and permits the use in several borough zoning districts. The current TND permits residential use only and at a greater density than in other locations in the borough. The proposed TND ordinance will permit mixed-use development combining residential and non-residential uses on the same property and within the same building in the zoning districts currently permitting the residential-only TND. These zoning districts border or extend from the town center and are adjacent to several established residential districts. These districts are V2 Village Gateway, the portion west of South State Street to Newtown Creek between Penn Street and the BR4 residential zoning district boundary. B1 Business Gateway, located on both sides of South State Street between South Chancellor Street and South Lincoln Avenue. Newtown Creek to the west, and a BR3 residential zoning district boundary to the east. And B2 Business Mixed Use, the district along South Lincoln Avenue that includes the Newtown Station development, the former train station site, the CVS pharmacy, and several non-residential businesses on Lincoln Avenue. The concept plan proposed for the former Stockburger Chevrolet dealership in the V2 district would be the first mixed-use development in the borough. The concept of mixed use is nothing new to Newtown. It is how the borough evolved over a few hundred years. The ordinance just never permitted it. The intent of the proposed zoning ordinance update is to change that, but not to change Newtown. Based on the selection of permitted uses and carefully written regulations, design standards, and review procedures and requirements, the proposed ordinance would serve to ensure that new development is visually and functionally compatible with the surrounding areas. A specific table of regulations, including lot size and coverage, frontage and setback dimensions, and other parameters, was created so a new TND would complement the existing requirements governing its V2, B1, or B2 host district, as well as its neighboring residential districts, thus maintaining the existing density of the area. In addition, a TND plan review process makes certain that new development blends aesthetically and physically with its surroundings. A formal definition for TND is being added to the borough zoning ordinance, highlighting the aspects of mixed use, pedestrian and vehicular movement, and integrated public and open space, all configured in a compact arrangement. Based on the widely accepted concepts of TND and the the model definition in the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, Newtown's definition focuses on the town quality and qualities we want to maintain and enhance. In addition to the more procedural facets already mentioned, the proposed TND ordinance offers a set of design standards for residential and non-residential building types, open space, streets, alleys, sidewalks, parking, and streetscapes not found in our current ordinances, but most appropriate for future inclusion in the general ordinances. Within these standards are requirements for on-site snow storage, off-street loading and trash disposal facilities, exterior cluster mailboxes if required by the Postal Service, and provisions for bicycle storage. The proposed TND ordinance addresses a number of deficient, missing, incorrect, and contradictory regulations. Excuse me, folks. The proposed TND ordinance addresses a number of deficient, missing, incorrect, and contradictory regulations contained in the borough's current ordinances, providing a foundation for updating these documents in the future. In addition, close review of the ordinances during preparation of the new text revealed some inappropriate and outdated content. For example, the present ordinance requires that art galleries, handcraft stores, flower shops, boutiques, and coffee shops can only be located in existing buildings. In light of the desire to promote business development in the borough, this restriction seems a bit short-sighted. Another ordinance section requires that litter resulting from a timber harvesting operation be removed from the site before it's vacated by the operator. This would certainly seem a good practice for tree removal during land development, but this regulation, along with many others, was written specifically for the expectation of an active logging industry here in town. Adoption of the new T&D ordinance would be an initial response to more than 24 recommended actions listed in the comprehensive plan, the comprehensive plan's implementation plan, including major issues of open space, improvements to pedestrian circulation, community character, and stormwater management. The proposed T&D ordinance is one of several in effect in Bucks County. It is likely the only one not written to accommodate a specific project on a selected site, a specific use in one or more zoning districts, or a mixed-use development in a selected district. It is applicable for borough-wide use in the zoning districts determined appropriate for T&D. The Bucks County Planning Commission seems to have taken a particular interest in development of this ordinance. Commission staff members have provided positive commentary and recommendations which are included in the draft and have affirmed that the zoning ordinance amendment is ready for advertisement for adoption. Thank you very much. This concludes the presentation, and I'll be pleased to respond to council members' questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Warren?
I have one question. What street was that with the logging operation?
I thought that was your property line, Mike. Okay.
No, it looks like Maple Avenue, I'm pretty sure.
Warren, I have two questions.
Sure.
First question is, we had two go-arounds with the Bucks County Planning Commission, and they made observations. Have we fulfilled and responded in kind to all of those operations and the revisions we made to the ordinance?
We have.
And number two, what was the overall consensus of the Planning Commission with respect to the ordinance? Did we have any issues that went unresolved within the committee?
Referring to the Bucks County Planning Commission?
No, our Planning Commission.
I don't believe so. The main issue discussed at last week's meeting was one of density, and we responded to several of the Bucks County Planning Commission's recommendations as to how to address that. So we had unanimous approval on our local Planning Commission based on, again, an affirmation by the Bucks County Planning Commission that our ordinance is ready for advertisement.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Not so much a question than a comment. First of all, thank you for the Planning Commission for spending a lot of time this past year and even before that thinking about this and putting it together. It's no small task, and when I started going through the ordinance and the long commentary by the Bucks County Planning Commission, it's a complex issue. But I think the vision for Newtown and the vision that's in the comprehensive plan plays itself out in this ordinance. So, job well done, and particularly interested and pleased that you've included the zoning districts that I was interested in a long time ago when I was sitting on the Planning Commission, the ones along Lincoln Avenue and the south end of Lincoln and State. So, job well done.
I would also like to echo Mr. Salvatore's preemptive commendation to resigned members of the Planning Commission, Chris Bauman and Jerry Lumpkin, but also commend the current members of the Planning Commission, Bill Heineman, Paul Salvatore, Paul Snyder, and Debbie Donifrey. It was a 19-month process, not the most exciting activity in the world. We've been looking forward to the first test of this ordinance, or one like it, and hopefully we'll see what happens this year. So, if there's...
That being said, I do have a bunch of minutia, kind of small things I had questions about that maybe I'll send you separately, or
Whatever you want to do.
It's just commentary, and sort of getting back to Bob's question about, I was going through the Bucks County notes comparing to the existing, and it looks like you captured everything, but I just wanted to, there's a couple that I'll send your way.
Sure.
Any other questions from council? Any comments or questions from the audience? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item of business under this section would be to ask for a motion to approve, to authorize the solicitor to advertise the traditional neighborhood development ordinance modifications.
I'll move to authorize the solicitor to advertise the traditional neighborhood development ordinance modifications.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
They're not substantive, I don't think.
Affect the text of the ordinance, because we need to, whatever we have at this moment is what gets advertised.
Let me go through them quickly. The question I had was under construction and phasing, C2, and it was, does the individual phases, and I think as I further read this, I answered my own question, but does each individual phase of a development have to meet our ordinances as they currently stand, or is it part of an overall development? This talks about if the development is constructed in phases.
Right.
Do each of the phases have to meet things like parking requirements?
Yes.
And okay.
Yes.
All right.
Based on the current ordinance, if it's not superseded by this ordinance.
Okay. And the other, and then the other ones are definitely minor ones that I'll get back to you. But the other one was, I was curious about the discussion back and forth with Bucks County Planning Commission on parking and the use of on-street parking to fulfill some requirements. What was the discussion that happened at the Planning Commission, the Borough Planning Commission, and how do you think that was resolved in the final ordinance?
I guess what specific concern, because if you're talking about parking for residential development?
I seem to recall the Bucks County Planning Commission had some concerns about counting
Okay, all right.
counting on-street parking towards overall parking
Okay,
requirements. And as we know, we have...
The Borough's Planning Commission really didn't go into detail with that. However, I did discuss it with the Bucks County Planning Commission. Their concern is that the borough, let's say for a new development, would be counting on-street parking as part of the calculations. Now, I guess the detail there was they were concerned about counting on-street parking on existing streets. The ordinance specifically states on-street parking can be part of the calculation for multifamily residences in the development only on new streets within the development.
Okay.
So parking on State Street, Center, Penn would not be included, not be counted. Parking within a street within the T&D could be, but only as an overflow space. So basically what the ordinance says is if I have a multifamily or a townhouse dwelling, and they're the only two conditions that require a third overflow space, that two of the spaces for those dwelling types have to be off-street. The overflow could be on-street, but again, it's on-street within the development.
Okay.